Good afternoon, everybody. I wish I could make this introduction in Russian. Unfortunately, that's not part of my skills. We will have the pleasure to spend all together the next 1 hour and 30 minutes. The idea and the challenge that I will give to our panelists is actually to energize all the audience right after lunch, which is always a challenge. We are going to speak about a very critical topic. We have seen this morning that the world is changing. A lot of transformations are happening, not only in the energy market, but also in the overall society. We are talking here about the changes of the energy mix. We are talking about digitalization. We are talking also about a new generation that is coming to the labor market with different skills, different perspectives of the world, and that's the challenges that will face the CEOs and the executives of our industry going forward. The objective of this plenary session is actually to review altogether these trends, understand a little bit better the underlying transformations that are happening in our industry at the moment. The second objective is to understand what it means in terms of skill set transformation, not only for the workforce, but also for the people that are entering the market today, but also for the ones who are already sitting in the industry for several years. We will discuss also on what it takes to prepare the new generation for these transformations and how does it affect the leadership going forward. I have the pleasure to welcome 6 incredible panelists with me today. Azad Shamshuarov, the Senior Vice President of Lukoil Russia. Marina Sedik, CEO of Irkutsk Oil Company. Cedric Kremens, Country Chair Russia, Chair of Shell in Russia, sorry. Zhu Jiping, former Chairman of CNPC and Vice President of the World Petroleum Council, Arman Tuyakov, General Director of Kashagan BV in Kazakhstan, and Denise Cox, President of the American Association of Petroleum Geologists. So the way we will set up this plenary is the following. I will invite Mr. Shamshuarov to start with some opening remarks to actually introduce a little bit the topic to all of us, and then the different speakers will actually follow him on the same setup. We will try to keep as much as possible sometimes at the end for your questions, so I want you to be ready. It's a unique opportunity to interact with people who have a very strong background in our industry, to ask the kind and not kind questions related to the ongoing transformations, and actually to get a bit of the flavor of what is happening at the moment. So, Mr. Shamshuarov, if you want, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Добрый день.
Good afternoon, dear colleagues, friends. I would like to thank the leader of Gas Forum for Torfiron for this great opportunity he's given me to communicate to young leaders, to future leaders. I'm very grateful to Stefan, our moderator, and we just met his acquaintance only several minutes ago, and we discussed the format of discussions of this panel. We didn't have the objective of telling about Lukoil Company Group. We are a public company, a publicly traded company. It's a Russian national private equity company encompassing more than 150,000 employees. The shareholders are 74,000 of households and legal entities. We are present in 42 countries of the world. Out of 105,000, 18,000 people work outside Russian Federation. So in most way, all those problems which were expanded upon in the morning session when CEOs of our energy departments and ministers were given the floor. We are all familiar with those challenges, mindful of our background here and overseas. Now I would like to turn to young leaders, to those who have finished their educational process or they are through this process yet they have got professional education on our specialty of oil and gas sector. In the morning session, we discussed geopolitical issues a lot. Having said that, I would like to come up with a small example. You were most practically participated in the other night's Giselle fabulous performance. I mean, most of you visited that performance. It's a wonderful art, wonderful artistic endeavors of Mariinsky Theater. It's real art. And politics is even finer and more sophisticated art. It's a standalone sphere of activity. It would be very right if politics be done by politicians. As to oil and gas sector, we should figure out how we are able to achieve effects, how we will achieve effect accomplished by some of the multinationals in oil and gas sectors, like our company. As to the resources, 2% of hydrocarbon reserves in the world are in the balance sheet of Lukoil. In our balance book, slightly more than 1% of hydrocarbons is extracted by us. We mentioned ecological problems. Lukoil utilizes 97.5% associated petroleum gas. We do not destroy it. We utilize it, turning it to other sources, thermal energy, bed injection, and so on. We cooperate with a lot of institutions of higher education and Russian Federation. In the morning, we spoke at length about the support of educational process, support of different initiatives of institutions of higher learning.
Certain tax initiatives that can be imposed on the industry and oil and gas sector to ensure the resource potential or the source for development of educational institutions. Probably this chance or a possibility also has the right to exist, but we have a different experience that is quite different. We are adherents of the involvement of university science into our business. Our initiative was started more than 10 years ago. The leading high schools, Moscow Gas Institute, Turin, Uchta, Ufa, oil and gas institutions, and the directors, some of them are in this conference room. They set up design offices at these institutions, and together with the universities, we involve the teachers and professors into the active work on our projects. And now the task of formation a new class of new type of more educated, active, or mobile people is the task that is implemented, and the project solutions are together implemented jointly by the professors, associate professors of those high schools. They are not contacting us as sponsors or employees. They perform the work that was assigned to them as skilled professionals. And the project technical and technological decisions have a great innovative component. That is a fact, and I think that will help the development of high school, that will provide us with the industrial resource such as students. Today we have discussed the digitization epoch. Digitization in our industry at minimum, as far as I remember, everyone has its own experience, historical experience. As to the local petroleum company, more than 30 years ago, the first geodynamic models were set up, 3D models. That was in the late 90s, and we tried to develop a package of initiatives on geological and engineering activities. These were our first steps jointly with Schlumberger company, Landmark, the well-known companies, and we discovered the new world for us. These were new possibilities. Today, each of us in this conference room cannot imagine, and we couldn't imagine that using a small smartphone you can transfer large volumes of information. 30 years ago, we couldn't imagine that using a phone you can take pictures and transmit within 1 second lots of bytes of information to the information space. We would call that person a crazy one at that time. What is important today, we should take into account the possibilities that are provided by the industry. Our bases are our geological reserves are in place, and extractable reserves. The recovery ratio of oil was just mentioned as an average temperature at the hospital. How can we speak today about petroleum recovery index at Lukoil or Gazprom Neft? You being an expert in that field know that that is just average temperature at the hospital. What is important? A very clear and understandable and structured individual approach to each borehole well and each field is important. You, as leaders, should be well aware of that business. When questions are asked as to what is valuable in your company, what are the values of a company, so what is most valuable in your company? This is our team, this is our human resource, these are the people, the team of people who think alike, not people who think in the same way, but who debate during information, during team building, they form and generate new ideas. Sometimes these ideas might seem crazy at first glance. They have nothing to do with our present-day reality, but implemented them step by step in a structured way by roadmaps, by the efforts of these initiators, we reach the goals set. It is not a secret today, and probably at this university that will be corroborated, that the most efficient business is money invested into education. No other business would be as efficient. That is also an axiom, and that is a fact. So if you have a possibility to daily improve your knowledge, to learn something new from your field of knowledge, from the perimeter of knowledge that is not under your responsibility, when you can afford, together with studying 3D geological model, dynamic model, to see the beauties of Louvre, Russian Museum of St. Petersburg, or Pushkin Museum in Moscow. That is a great pleasure when you yourself, step by step, recognize this world and come to know this world. It is immense, and quite often all these associations are transferred to our specialty when creating the new quality of management of our reserves. We use the things that have been developed in the world. Today we have discussed environmental protection, and I think that Stefan will raise that problem once again. Recycling and environmental friendliness of our production. Asking the question, who is the best petroleum specialist today? It is the person who doesn't see oil. It should be in the subsurface by its nature. By definition, it couldn't be beyond the engineering technological systems and the pipelines in oil preparation units, all refineries and so on. And finally, that processed petroleum petroleum product will be in the place where it will be used to generate energy. That might be a car or some power plant or some other substance, but that is not nature, and that shouldn't be on the sites. That no petroleum pollution should occur and contamination of our environment. Stefan set some time limitations, but I think, Stefan, it would be correct to leave some time for communication for Q&A session. Probably we'll be able to answer your questions, the questions of the young leaders in the industry, probably, and I hope very much that will underscore everything that you are thinking about today in your project and your ideas in implementation in a certain country or company. It is not essential, it is most important that we today participate in common creation so that we would leave our Earth intact and our efforts would be concentrated on ensuring the energy security of the whole world, not only separate town or city or country. Each of you taking the decisions, take the decisions to ensure the safety and security of all those who surround you. That might be a team of producers about the facility or the town or the country, and then some conglomerates where we work now. Thank you very much for your attention. We'll look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much for these first words. You have been highlighting a lot of the transformations that we were discussing this morning, which are also enablers of the changes, climate change, environmental concerns, but also digitalization, energy supply, security and access. It takes education, but also methodology within the companies. And it requires also people with a broader skill set, maybe going forward. I would like to invite Marina Sedik to give us a few words on the topic. So if you can give her a warm round of applause.
Добрый день, уважаемые участники форума.
Good afternoon, dear forum participants. I wouldn't restrict myself just to a few words, especially before coming here. I said that 10 minutes would not be enough, so they have given 20 minutes to you, and I'll try to use those 20 minutes. First, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Marina Sedik. I'm CEO of Irkutsk Petroleum Company. Why I introduce myself? Because when I was coming here, I understood that they don't know what I am. I have been CEO of Irkutsk Petroleum Company since its foundation in 2000. Irkutsk Petroleum Company places surprises the oil and gas production in Russia, and we have been surprising that world for 19 years, and I will surprise you today. Before I pass on to my presentation and discuss the company, I would like to add some theory to practice. As my school teacher said, I would like to disclose the theme of the force CO 2030. What is required from the future leaders? CEO or any other manager, is he always a leader? Is it really necessary for these notions to coincide? If yes, under what circumstances, under what conditions they should coincide? Thus, what is the difference between leadership and management? I very much like 12 statements. Oren Ben is one of the first researchers of modern leadership. The leader controls and leaders changes and improves. Manager is a copy and leader is in the region. Manager supports, leader is developing. Manager focuses on the systems and structure, and leader focuses on people. Manager bases on control, and the leader performs confidence. Manager has short-term and leader long-term prospects. The manager asks how and when, and the leader asks what and why. The manager looks at the lower line, and the leader looks at the horizon. The manager mimics, and the leader creates. The manager takes the current state of the art, and the leader challenges it. The manager is classically a soldier, and the leader is only he himself. The manager does everything correctly, and the leader makes correct things. If the manager is a fallen characteristic concerning the position, not a human, the leadership is an informal social phenomenon. So what is leadership? No one can tell us. This is one of the most obvious and less understandable phenomena. Where we have at least two persons, so we'll have leader. Why a CEO should be a leader? Because the manager can be a person who has professional training in the sphere in which the company works, and often the management is assigned to a separate profession. There are a lot of means of being trained in management to get MBA and thus develop the professional skills of management. The manager should know the branch specificity of the company, be able to play the activity, to delegate the task, to control, to build the processes, systems of motivation, communications, calculate indicators. All these managerial competences have long been described, and now they are called art skills. So why a manager having all that knowledge, skills and competence should I spend efforts to do something that doesn't have any clear definition? This is more than sufficient, and we have to exert a lot of efforts. Really, why? If the purposes of the companies are obvious and do not require any changes, if the company has no other purpose and task, it doesn't need it, and develops steadily at its market, and the potential of the market is available. If the shareholders are content with the work of the company, there is no way to do it. You can become a wonderful manager under such conditions, but the conditions are quite fantastic. Today is a quickly changing world, in the world where daily we have new technologies appearing. To be a manager is not so simple. And how can you also be a leader? What is needed in order to become a leader today? As to what is needed from the future leader, I will mention it, although I'm not sure that I know what will be required from them in 1 or 2 years. Thus, when the manager, to a certain extent, has to go beyond the managerial competences, his task or working conditions are far from ideal, then the manager cannot do without development of leadership competences. Leadership is a competence that works irrespective of the sector and specificity of the company. I will try to describe the leader's qualities that are necessary to the manager primarily, and to clarify why. And then I'll pass on to the talk, and that will illustrate. Proceeding from my experience, the leader's competences can be divided into several blocks. Concentration on people, on the team, development of emotional intelligence, possibility of affecting other people, motivation, and the possibility to lead people. No perfect systems and structures would operate if you are alone. First, the leader should take care of the people and to create a single team. Believe that is quite difficult. On the basis of what should you bring people together, how to motivate, in addition to the carrot and stick that are not efficient in modern society. How should the leader answer the question how to convince? There is no ready formula for that. And the main question which you will have to ask to yourself primarily, I'm close to the text because I deliberate on these themes. We won't be able to cover it in 20 minutes.
Почему? Итак, самый главный вопрос,
So the
который надо
most
задать
important
прежде всего
question that we
себе,
have to
почему я
ask to
это
ourselves,
делаю?
why
Если ты
am I
можешь
doing it?
определить,
If you can
почему или
determine
зачем ты
why
это
or
делаешь,
what
и
for
если
you are
ответ не
doing this,
направлен на
if the
удовлетворение
answer is not
потребностей
targeted
самого
at
себя,
meeting
и
your
если ты
own
будешь
needs,
постоянно и
if you are
неукоснительно
constantly
следовать этому
following
сам, тогда ты сможешь создать команду и
then
повести
you
за
will be
собой.
able to set up
Это
a
как
team and to
лидерство в
lead the team.
безопасности, я
That
имею в виду
is
производственную
leadership in
безопасность,
safety
о
and in
котором уже
production
давно и много
safety that
говорят.
has
Мы
long been
работаем на
discussed.
опасных
We are
производственных
working in
объектах. Если
hazardous production
руководитель сам не
facilities. If the
соблюдает правила
manager
и
doesn't observe
предписания и
the
не верит
rules
в них, то
and
ничего
doesn't
не
believe in
получится.
them, nothing will
Может быть
happen.
выстроена
Probably
первоклассная
we
система
might have a
безопасности, но вряд
first-class
ли она
security
заработает,
system, but it
если
will not
руководитель
operate
при
if the
посещении
manager
объектов и не
visiting
только
the
не соблюдает
facilities
правила.
would not comply
Так
with
и
the
во всех
rules.
других сферах
Similar to
производства и
other
видах
spheres of
деятельности
production and
компании.
types of activities
Никакие
of the
сверхмощные
company, no
технологии
super
не
powerful
выстроят культуру
technologies will build the
безопасности,
structure
культуру
of
ответственности,
security, safety,
командности и так
responsibility,
далее.
teamwork, and so
Поскольку
on.
культура и
Since the
технология
culture and
абсолютно разные
technology are
понятия.
different notions,
Мне бы хотелось
I would like
остановиться еще на
to
одном
dwell
аспекте
on
влияния,
one more
убеждений и
aspect
мотивирования,
of
на
conviction
эмоциональном
and
интеллекте.
motivation,
Сегодня уже
emotional
вряд ли для
intelligence.
кого-то новость,
Today,
что
it
люди
is not a
помимо собственного
secret that
интеллекта
people, in
обладают
addition
еще и
to their
эмоциональным
own
интеллектом.
intelligence, have
Если
emotional
это для
intelligence.
кого-то все-таки
If
является
it is
новостью, скажу, что
news for
эмоциональный
someone,
интеллект– это
emotional
возможность и
intelligence is the
умение
possibility and
распознавать
the ability
собственные
to
чувства и
recognize
эмоции
own
и
feelings
управлять
and
ими, и
emotions and to
умение и
control
возможность
them, the
распознавать
ability
чувства и
to
эмоции других
recognize the
людей
feelings and emotions of
и
other people
взаимодействовать на их
and
основе.
interact on their basis.
Второй блок–
The second
уверенность
block,
в себе, формирование своих убеждений и
being sure of
следование им.
yourself
Это
and
не
to
значит, что
formation of your
лидер не может
convictions.
сомневаться или
That
ошибаться.
doesn't mean that the
Я
leader
уже
can
говорила, что если
not doubt
твердо
and be
верить в свои
mistaken. If you
убеждения, то
believe in
чаще
your
всего будешь
convictions,
придерживаться
most
своих
often you will
ценностей в
stick
любых
to your
ситуациях.
values
Это
under any
влияет на
situation
видение
that
лидера и
affects the
будущее
vision of the
компании.
leader and
Но
future of
это
the
не значит,
company.
что лидер
But that
должен
doesn't mean
игнорировать
that the
мнение
leader
тех
should
людей,
ignore the
которые
opinion of
думают
other
иначе.
people who
Хороший
think
лидер–
different.
гибкий лидер.
A good
Лидер
leader is
всегда
a flexible
испытывает
leader.
разумное
A
сомнение,
leader always
прислушивается к
can
мнению
doubt, listen to the
окружающих,
opinion of the
адаптирует свои
surrounding
идеи,
people,
развивает
adapt
их,
his ideas, develop
учитывая
his ideas,
предложения своей
take into
команды.
account the
Адаптация
proposals
своих
of
идей не
the
является изменой
company
собственных
team.
убеждений. Не
Adaptation
все
doesn't mean
принятые
the
решения
change of
приносят
convictions. Not
ожидаемые
all the
результаты.
decisions will
Многие из
give the
решений будут
expected results.
ошибочными.
Many of the decisions
Даже
will be
лидеры– это
erroneous.
люди.
Even the
Если
leaders
вы
are
ошиблись,
people.
признайте
If you are
свою ошибку.
mistaken, you
Не
have to
бойтесь
recognize
показать
your
слабость в
mistake. You
глазах
shouldn't
команды.
be afraid
Всем
of
людям
showing your
свойственно
weaknesses.
ошибаться.
All people make
Вместе с
mistakes.
тем, лидер
At the
должен
same time,
проявлять
the leader
решимость,
should
если
show
этого требует
his
ситуация.
decision,
Лидер осознанно
decisiveness.
принимает решения, и
He
самое
takes
главное, несет за них ответственность.
decisions
На
and
основе
is
тех данных,
responsible for them
которыми он
on the basis of
располагает.
the data
В
available
качестве
to him.
принимать решения на
Quality
основе
of
собственных
taking
убеждений и
decisions on
нести
the basis of
ответственность за
his
результаты
conviction
этих
and to bear
решений
responsibility
необходимо
for
для
the
любого
results of the
лидера.
decision is a necessity
Формирование
for each leader.
корпоративной культуры.
Formation of
Для
corporate
создания
culture.
успешной
To
команды
create a
лидер должен
successful team,
задаться
the leader
вопросом, а
should
зачем
ask the
сотрудники
question
компании,
why
которую
the
он возглавляет,
employees of the
ходят на
company which he is
работу,
heading come
зарабатывать
to
деньги,
work to
удовлетворять
earn
свои
money to
материальные
satisfy their
потребности,
material
или как
needs.
в той
Or,
известной байке,
as is
которую в
known,
разных странах
when in
рассказывают
different
по-разному. В
countries they
России
say
она
it
звучит так.
indifferently. In Russia it
Дворник
is
на
like that.
Байконуре говорит, что он
Janet
здесь
and
не просто
Baikonur
дорожки
says
подметает,
that
а
she is not
помогает
just sweeping
космонавтам в
the
космос
floor, but
запустить. А
helping to
может еще для
launch
чего-то.
spaceships into
Для
the
того,
space.
чтобы
And probably
сформировать
so
ту
something else
корпоративную
in order
культуру в
to form
компании,
the
которая
corporate
будет
culture of the
соответствовать
company that will
представлениям и
comply with the
убеждениям большинства
notions and
команды,
convictions of
эти
the most of
вопросы
the
нужно
team.
прояснить в
These
первую
questions
очередь.
have to be
В известной
clarified
пирамиде
primarily
потребностей,
in
о
the
которой,
pyramid
конечно
of
же, все
needs,
знаем,
which
духовные
know
потребности
the
человека
spiritual
находятся на
needs
вершине
of the
пирамиды,
person are
и
at the
только их
apex of the
удовлетворение
pyramid, and
делает
their
человека
satisfaction make
по-настоящему
a person
счастливым.
really
Как, на ваш
lucky.
взгляд, какая компания будет успешно
In your
развиваться и
mind, which
двигаться в
company
будущее?
will develop more
Сотрудники, которые пребывают в
successfully?
страхе, унынии и
The
вследствие этого в
company whereby
равнодушии?
the
Или
employees
та,
are
в которой
totally
люди
indifferent
пребывают в
and full
состоянии
of
удовлетворения
fear
своих потребностей,
and
включая
disillusions,
духовные,
or
и где
those
процветает
who are
инициативность, креативность,
aspiring to
рождаются и
be
реализуются
creative and
идеи? Вопрос,
initiative
конечно,
and
риторический.
implement ideas? Of course, it's
Конечно,
a
без
rhetoric
удовлетворения
question.
базовых
Without
потребностей к вершине
satisfaction of
пирамиды
basic
даже
needs,
не
we won't
подобраться.
be able to
Но это
reach
задача
the
любого
pinnacle of the
руководителя в любой
pyramid.
компании,
But this is a
иначе
task of
даже
any
вполне
leader in
успешная
any
компания
company.
ждет крах.
Otherwise,
Решить
even very
задачу
successful
формирования
company
здоровой
will
корпоративной
fail.
культуры
There should
может
be a
объединение
good
компании
corporate culture. Companies should have got its core corporate values. Values are the foundation. That way you reach my mental comfort. effort of your employees working among like-minded people. There should be the elements of self-organization, self-regulated organizations, the art of changes and creation of a leader. That's very important as well for leaders, the current leaders, future leaders, whatsoever, in order to survive successfully in rapidly changing world, to see perspectives and to come up with strategic goals. You should change starting from yourself and then change your company, which is very challenging. All your previous life is indicative of the fact that you accomplished a lot based on what you did throughout the years. You fostered specific habits or neural networks united into neural networks in order to turn around a habit. It takes 21 days of ongoing practice, but before that you should figure out what you should change. Easier said than done. If you cannot change the situation, you should change your attitude towards it. Leader qualities are very important. And imagine that you should turn around the direction of activities of the company. That means that you'll have to replace your employees by other team. How to achieve that? A leader should create leaders. You should know how to delegate authorities and powers to create the atmosphere of trust, not control. You should be responsible for team members, but you delegate powers to them. And you should think differently, and you should be eager to introduce those changes. Someone said that innovative ideas evolve exactly when dissenting opinions are coming up. I share this opinion. There are lots of other faculties and characteristics typical for leaders, but I don't have time to expand on that. What kind of human being a leader of the future should be by 2030? I don't know, frankly. Future will turn around the world. It will redefine the world. If we think back to the horse problem, or for the scientists of 19th century, many thought that the cities would be buried under horse manure, but then all of a sudden a steam engine comes up, then the trains, and there was no way of knowing that that would happen in 19th century. Same goes for us. We see the problem, but we don't have the slightest clue about its solution right now. All the key trends of the future could be split into three groups: democratic changes, new spiral of digitalization and democratization, and also technical revolution. Marshall Goldsmith, the consultant of best top managers of the world, and US, of course, identified 5 main characteristics of the leader: global thinking, acceptance of cross-cultural differences, adoption of technologies, partnership relations, joint leadership of the companies. What should we do? We should continue developing, preparing ourselves to the fact that the world will redefine itself fully in future. Oil and gas sector currently is overregulated. Due to that, it's very difficult to change anything in it. To my way of thinking, self-skills instruments will provide the impetus for changes in our work. Let's get down to the presentation. I'll tell you about Irkutsk Oil Company, which is recognized the leader among the independent and rapidly growing oil companies of Russia.
Я пытаюсь, тут ничего не нажимается. Ага, все. Спасибо.
Over 19 years, our company accomplished a lot. You may have heard about Siberian oil people who constructed this holding. In the beginning, it was 30,000 tons of oil per annum. Now, mindful of limitations on production, we can produce 13,300 300,000 tons per day. We are doing exploration and production in 3 Siberian regions. Over the recent 10 years, we discovered 12 deposits of hydrocarbons. The company has been developing engineering and production infrastructure. We implement long-term programs on enhanced oil recovery. For that, we implement standard and innovative geological technical tasks. We use water cuts with mixing gases agent. It's a unique project for Russia. We have obtained very good results, plus 6% on top of our conventional EOR. Now we'll expand the sphere of application of this technology. Alongside with that, the company conducts the policies of business diversification. Now we are a gas production company, and in the nearest future, like 5 or 6 years down the road, will become a very big, important chunk of gas processing company in the country. There will be a petrochemical cluster in Kemmerovo region. Total volume of investments is $7 billion into creation of this complex. The implementation of the project will enable us to create more than 400 jobs and will increase GDP over goods by 7%. There will be infrastructural development of the northern part of this region. There will be gas transport and gas infrastructure. Extra generating facilities will be completed. The large-scale construction of gas treatment and separation facilities. The 2 fields are developing. For new production, we are building a residential area in Uskut for 3,000 people, production employees and members of their families, including public spaces, no kindergarten, school, and clinic. These changes will affect the whole town and will involve all social activity citizens. It's a big challenge for us, but it's a nice challenge. We should promote our brand in new gas chemical sector to invite specialists to come along with their families. I told you already what properties should leader has to create a strong team. How should we develop the company? Which managerial practices we should borrow or create ourselves? For us, it was very interesting. It was a practical task, mindful of the scope of our projects. We have been moving forward by the same token as in implementation of gas project. In 2013 and 15, the company had tantalizing experience of transition from a small startup to a large industrial holding, which came along from different regions, different corporate backgrounds, corporate cultures, different ideas they had. As the result of diagnostics and implementation of programs inviting consultants, we came to a conclusion that consultants will not help us. We should do something with our own, uniting tools of classical management with our own instruments, creating very productive environment for company employees. Hard skills, professional competences will play a key role in any company whatsoever, especially a production company. We'll invest a lot into this sphere. We'll create Russian engineering company whose main asset will not be the reserves and facilities, but intelligence and knowledge. But as I've said, if we want to accomplish success, we need also soft skills on top of hard skills, so that team members could work together, resolving challenging tasks. What do we do currently to keep abreast of the changes, to give an impetus to positive changes? We create horizontally managed structures oriented upon working in a specific direction. We have got lots of opportunities here. We're dealing with broad range of tasks in the sphere of production safety. I am the founding mother of this structure, so to put it. I started from scratch. This system has been around for 2 years. I would like to dwell on it because, trust me, you will not find anything like that in any other petroleum company. I came across a book by Carter, professor of Harvard University, Acceleration of Changes, and he expanded upon a very important idea that in complex hierarchical structures, a new thought, new idea will never born. We know how Silicon Valley is functioning. This is the place for startups. No ideas are coming up. Whereas a hierarchical company, which had been around since long way back, and it tries to dismantle this pyramid, it's extremely challenging, and new fresh ideas don't go all the way up. They somehow subside, diminish, go away. For new bright ideas to underpin the company's culture, Carton suggests that concurrently horizontally managed system should be created, some kind of a startup, and we should try then to superimpose, to overlap both structures, and it works. Something clicks and it works. And presently, due to this synergetic effect, due to this fusion, actually, this structure is mostly working in the sphere of production safety, because this is a challenging area in our sector altogether. So I'll refer to two important facts. Over 2 years of its existence, this entity, which has been conceiving projects and implementing them, there are about 160 young aspiring specialists in this company, in this unit, and they work after hours and just not for money. It's the top of the pyramid. They are working in order to satisfy their spiritual needs as well. Over those 2 years, we made a great leap to another level of safety culture. We jumped it, and we reduced production trauma injury by 8 tons.
I was actually suggesting to wrap up so that we can keep a bit of time for the questions. If we can keep a bit of time for the other speakers and for the question, it would be wonderful.
Хорошо, но я презентацию отчитывала, было всего 15 минут.
Okay, but I thought I was speaking for 15 minutes only.
Закончу.
It's actually 25.
Нет, 15, а всего 20.
15.
Хорошо, оставим команду больших возможностей в покое.
Okay, I'll have to skip certain points.
Внедряем управление на основе ценностей, разработанных сотрудниками компании,
value-based governance. We developed the system of generation and collection of experts, examination and implementation of projects of employees to streamline production processes. It's not just about comprehensive education, but leadership qualities of employees. We have got a lot of corporate events, exercising executional function, conferences and seminars. We created some of them ourselves, like scientific conference, technology days, and Baikal Forum. And this year, colleagues from Kazakhstan started briefing, like they say. So we are doing a lot of different activities. We develop and implement projects in the sphere of IT, new services and communications, online monitoring, and also ROVs, creation of digital fields and robotization of processes, because we're keeping abreast of the contemporary times. I have got another slide. If you say that I should finish, I would like to mention one more thing. Very last slide. Thank you. And Well, the world and business milieu has been rapidly changing, which creates good opportunities for those who can adjust and be easily embedded into new teams. Your future is in your own hands, colleagues.
Спасибо, Marina. And, well, I'm very sorry I had to interrupt you to keep a bit of time. First of all, it's fascinating to see the journey of Yakutsk Oil Company and all what you have done there, the challenges that you have in the different communities. You have given us also a very strong portrait of what could be a leader, and a very good challenge for all the speakers of the leadership block, because you have not the answer, and I think that's a fair point, and a good challenge for our audience also. We need to ask why, and that's something that we'll need to build on going forward. Cedric Clement from Shell, if you would like to share your thoughts with us.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to thank the World Petroleum Council for the honor to speak with you here today, and also to thank Stefan for leading us through this panel and the discussions today. I'd like to briefly touch upon the energy transition I see happening in our industry today, what companies need to do to adapt to that energy transition, and then importantly, some of the things that I believe leaders need to either already be doing or need to start doing in order to also personally adapt to that change and be successful leaders in that environment. So let's start with the energy transition. The world around us is changing fast, and that change, in my mind, requires a change in leadership. Globalization, explosive growth of digital technologies, increasing mobility, political shifts, and of course, as I already mentioned, the energy transition. Today, a completely new energy system is emerging. I think we can all recognize that there have been other energy transitions in the past, but this one feels a little bit different to me. First, I think it has a much bigger scale than ever before, as the world has never been so populated and has never included such living conditions as we see today. 7.5 billion people live on this planet today. 10 billion people are expected by 2050. And living standards of millions are improving as people around the world move from lower class to middle class incomes. And they will need more and more energy. We expect right now that by 2070, the world will be consuming double the energy that it is today, and that is despite large improvements in energy efficiency that are expected in the next 50 years. There's a second factor that makes this energy transition so different, which is climate change and air quality. It means that the world will need to meet this rising energy demand whilst also supplying cleaner energy to the world. So companies need to adapt to thrive in that energy transition. For decades, companies like mine, like Shell, have delivered the energy and petrochemicals that have helped spread prosperity in the world. But to continue, and more importantly, to thrive, companies must adapt to the energy transition ahead of us. My company is rapidly adapting as we speak. Already, our company is more gas than oil, and that's a trend that's critical for enabling the shift from coal to gas, particularly in the Asian continent. Shell today is already involved in battery electric vehicle charging, in low-carbon biofuels, in hydrogen, in liquefied natural gas for transport, so for trucks, vessels, and even rail. We have started investing in power because more and more energy will be consumed by electrons rather than molecules in the future. And we are growing a power business that spans generation, including also solar and wind, trading and supply direct to customers. But that's only part of the adaptation that my company is going through. That is what I would call the what. But the how of how we work is also changing. Digitalization is an example. It's transforming our work, it's reducing costs and increasing productivity. But in addition, it also offers new opportunities to connect to customers in different ways, offer innovative products, services, and solutions. So Shell is adapting because we wish to thrive through this century and beyond. This adaptation is achieved and powered by the leaders in the company. And we will need leaders that can adapt, be more flexible and nimble than in the past. So let me transition now to a number of thoughts about leadership. First of all, I want to tell you a little bit more about the framework that we use in our company for assessing leadership potential as well as developing it. We do that on the basis of what we call a CAR framework, which is 3 letters that stand for capacity, achievement, and relationships. And we look for leaders that can embody the combination of all 3 of these attributes. Not 1, not 2, but the balance and combination of all 3. So the world, as I just said, is changing faster than ever before. And in order to be successful as a business, you have to be able to anticipate trends before they happen and have the flexibility to adapt to them. So the first skill in doing that is what we would call capacity, the intellectual, analytical, and creative ability to learn quickly, to identify issues, make judgments, and create new solutions. A leader should not just approach things from his own functional responsibility, but should be able to see the bigger picture, as the world is more and more becoming a systems world rather than a structures world. Secondly, achievement. For me, this is about delivery. A leader should have enthusiasm, resilience, and confidence. So what we look for in leaders is highly competitive people who really want to win, people who like to work hard, stretch themselves, and can mobilize and motivate teams to deliver results. And the third aspect is relationships. This is all about the character and the ability to work effectively with others, across boundaries, across different cultures, and to influence without a formal authority. I think, on the one hand, to connect inside an organization, but also to connect, very importantly, with many of the external stakeholders of a business in society. Today, if we look in our industry, many projects do not fail anymore for technical reasons, but they tend to fail because some parts of the society do not want them to proceed, or because the acceptance within the society for that project doesn't exist. So this is more about emotional intelligence in addition to pure intellect or IQ. So to maybe make an analogy to sport, it has to be more of a contact sport like hockey perhaps. But in contrast to hockey, this is not about crushing the opponent or about crushing the competition. That does not work. Leaders need to create long-term partnerships. It requires building trust by being who you are, by showing your own personal integrity, transparency, respect, and humility. So when we develop and select people for leadership in our company, we look at all 3 of these aspects and ensure that they are present in balance. Next, I'd like to maybe share some personal thoughts on leadership in terms of, as Marina said, maybe none of us have a crystal ball about what is needed in 2030, but what are some of the trends that I see changing today and that I believe will continue to be changed and therefore be relevant for leaders in the future. The first one is personal values and integrity. I believe that these are becoming more important than they were in the past. I think leaders have always been role models, but perhaps in the past it was okay to be, kind of one person at the job and to have a separate personal life. Today, everything is connected through communications, everything is visible, so you just can't afford to be doing something different in terms of values or your personal standards on the weekend than what you're preaching in the office. A leader should be beyond reproach in terms of your personal standards, because otherwise it'll impact your credibility. Another way of saying that, a leader today is always on stage. Marina also touched on this next one, it's about purpose. I think nowadays the concept of purpose for employees and for companies is more important than it was in the past. It's no longer, I need the job, but I need the salary. People want to be linked to something purposeful. And it's up to leaders to help employees, teams, and the whole company connect to purpose in their work. One of the things I've come to learn as a leader that there's 2 aspects to purpose, and I call it the big P and the small p. So the big P can be something like solving climate challenge or even eliminating world hunger. So how does a company connect into that? But it's equally important to have a small P. So how does an individual's role fit into that larger purpose? Why is a financial report that is produced somewhere relevant for a sales executive, and how does it ultimately, deliver the business's goals? Or why do toilets at a retail site need to be clean, in terms of how will people know what the impact is that this has on our customers and how it keeps them happy? And the third trend I wanted to touch on is empowerment. The role of the leader in empowering others is also continuing to become more and more relevant. In my view, the real perspective on how to judge the strength of a leader is by the people around them, rather than his or her individual strengths. This replaces a traditional leadership model which has survived perhaps through the centuries from tribal times, when a chief was the strongest and smartest of all, and everybody just waited for instructions. The concept going forward, and that's linked to empowerment, is about leaders developing leaders. And I think this trend will become more important for leaders to embrace and to lead in. So, a couple of thoughts in conclusion. As we mentioned, the economy and the industry are changing rapidly, and it's extremely difficult to understand now what the reality will look like in 2030. So what I just mentioned is perhaps not a recipe that should be carved on stone tablets, but rather a guide on how to be flexible, how to adapt, how to have that ability to adapt as a leader and thus as a company. I talked about things like capacity, achievement, relationship, how they need to go in balance, but also trends like integrity, purpose, and empowerment. But ultimately, to put that all together will require for an individual to be able to take personal risk, try new things. It will require, in my mind, curiosity and courage. And then let me leave you maybe with a little bit of a postscript. One last thing about what the leaders need to look like in 2030. I look at this panel, and I can actually congratulate Stefan compared to other panels I'm on, but what does leadership need to look like is diversity. And more so than today. Leadership in the future needs to represent the customers that we serve, the society that we are part of, and the employees that work for us. So that's maybe the last kind of postscript thought, is that leadership in 2030 needs to be more diverse and look more diverse than it is today. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Cedric, for these words. There are two things that are coming to my mind when I'm listening to that. The first thing is actually the great fit, or the amazing fit between the framework of Shell and the ambition that we had behind this forum to build capacity through the technical program to actually give an overview of what we can collectively achieve, but also help students and young professionals to build strong relationships going forward, and to do it in an environment of diversity, and I think it's quite well reflected on this panel today. So thank you very much. Mr. Zhu Jiping, I would like to invite you to share with us your thoughts. You have been traveling all around the world for the WPC, so you have probably found the great leader for 2030.
This not work? No, it's not the show here, huh? Here is not work.
Do we have anyone from the technical team? Well, we were talking a lot about digitalization. That's part of the challenge, I guess. Well, it's not working on the screen. Well, you have them with you? Backup plan, always.
Okay, I'm sorry. Take some minutes to work on the procedures. The ladies and gentlemen, delegates from the WPC Youth Forum, good afternoon. I'm very glad to be in this great historical city of St. Petersburg again. For me, this is a city left many fond memory to myself. Back in September 2013, witnessed by the President Xi Jinping and President Putin, I myself signed the agreement for enhanced natural gas cooperation between China and Russia, and with the Yamal LNG project cooperation agreement with the President of Gazprom and Novatek, respectively. Until now, these two projects have achieved tremendous progress and become a milestone in the Russia and China energy cooperation. So it is my great pleasure to participate in the WPC Youth Forum. Youth is the most beautiful stage in life, full of the vitality and hope. Therefore, youth leadership development is of far-reaching significance, for it can be vital in the reshaping the future of world petroleum industry, as well as the sustainable development of human energy. The world is full of great challenges and opportunities, and the only constant theme is change. In this world of intense uncertainty, to grasp the future development trend is extremely essential, and is very important to our future leaders. Currently, the world is undergoing the third major energy transformation, a profound revolution taking place worldwide. Different countries are carrying out forward the energy transformation in different ways, with different scale and different speeds, but all of them are toward the same direction: low carbon and carbon-free. Never before has renewable energy developed so rapidly. However, there is no sign that fossil energy will fall out of use. A recent study shows that the happiness index of the people is directly proportional to the energy consumption. The pursuit of a happy life is a common aspiration of mankind. Where increased energy consumption, we must strive to protect the environment, which is an essential requirement for low carbon transformation. Future leaders in the petroleum industry must address such major issues as what is the development trend of the energy industry over the next decade, and what are the factors to dominate the future development of the energy industry. Ready now? The first point is the oil and gas to remain dominant in the energy mix around the middle of this century. Major leading energy thinking tanks released their forecast for future energy development. The latest research result in 2018, last year, shows the oil and gas will remain dominant, accounting for around 54 to 56 of a premier energy mix around 2050s. The dominant position of of oil and gas in the primary energy mix is determined by three key factors. The first one is the economic development. It is a project that the world population will be close to the 10 billion, and the size of global economy will exceed 200 trillions around 2050s. Sufficient energy is needed to support the expanding world economy, and oil and gas turn out to be the most realistic choice. The second factors, a golden era for the development of natural gas. Natural gas is clean and abundant. In 2018, the world proven reserves of natural gas were 196.9 TCM, with a reserve life of 51.9. With the technology being soon and the commercial development of gas hydrogen, natural gas of even greater resources potential. The world's new discovery and the natural gas reserves remain significant, larger than the oil reserves. Major international oil companies and the national oil company are accelerating their transition of business focus from the oil to the natural gas. With the expansion of global LNG trading, natural gas market is evolving from a regional one into a global unified market. This is a driving force behind the accelerated development of natural gas. Natural gas not only serves as a bridge to the future energy, but also offers a realistic solutions to the low carbon transformation when natural gas integrates with renewable energy. The third reason, the main end-use demand for crude oil will shift from the fuel to the raw material. For the future period, being used as a raw material for chemicals productions will become one of the main drivers of oil demand growth. By 2050s, the incremental oil demand for chemical production will account for 30% the average newly added demand. The crude oil to chemicals process will replace traditional refining process and accelerate the shift of crude oil utilization toward the chemical industry. So this is the reason, this explains why giants like ExxonMobil and Saudi Aramco has recently invested heavily to build large-scale chemical facilities in the countries like China, Singapore, and the United States. The second trend, renewable energy maintain robust growth momentum, driven by the global effort in low carbon emission reductions. Technological advancement and the government incentive, renewable energy has become the fastest-growing energy products with an increasing share in primary energy mix. According to the International Renewable Energy Agency, 60% of the world's newly installed generating capacity was contributed by the renewable source in last year. Global energy thinking tank forecast a continually rising proportion of renewable energy in the premier energy mix going forward. In the process of transformation from petroleum company to integrate energy companies, to invest in renewable energy has become a key strategy for the international oil companies. The robust development of renewable energy will boost and achieve the integrated development of natural gas plus renewable energies and promote the application of natural gas on a large scale. Prospect for the integrative development between the natural gas and the renewable energy. When the integrative development in the power generation sectors, renewable energy generation is growing rapidly. The intermittence of renewable energy requires the integration with the natural gas power generation. The large-scale application of renewable energy, especially solar energy, has in turn created huge opportunities for the development of natural gas. The second, integrative development in the transportation sectors. In recent years, the fastest-growing new energy vehicles are electrical vehicles. They utilize low-carbon energy in real sense. EV should run with electricity generated from clean energy. But at present, only 1/4 of the electrical used by EV in the world is generated from clean energies. The large-scale application of natural gas power generation is due to promote the development of EV. The last one, integrative development in the hydrogen energy sectors. As a zero-emission energy carrier, hydrogen can be used for power generation, transportation, and heating. Many countries, such as the United States, Germany, Japan, and China, has placed high hopes on hydrogen energy and formulate hydrogen energy development strategy. Hydrogen production from natural gas is the most competitive way to obtain hydrogen energy.
Mr. Chairman, if we can progressively move
Yes.
to the conclusion, we are running out of time. Thank you.
The last one, the new technology revolution to reshape the petroleum industry. The history of the petroleum industry is one of the technology innovation. So this picture shows the technology development in the oil industry. So right now is going to the number 5 round. Technology advance in petroleum industry go hand in hand with the development of information technologies. The new round of scientific technical revolution is sweeping across the world with unprecedented breadth and depth. New information technologies such as big data, cloud computing, virtual reality, and blockchain are bringing unprecedented chance to global production, societies, and life. As a new engine of the new round of scientific and technology revolution and industry transformation, artificial intelligence has become a key technology and of strategic significance of the future development. So this chart that shows the major oil companies and oil service companies and the key development of information technologies for oil companies. And with the application of a new generation of AI technologies in the petroleum industry. Technologies such as smart geological studies, smart geophysical exploration, intelligence oil field, intelligence drilling system, nano-intelligence, oil displacement, high precision intelligence fracture will significantly enhance the world catch success ratio and oil and gas recovery, as well as ensuring the safe and green productions. So here has two examples. One is the intelligence oil field. Another example is the intelligence drilling system. So another point is that the technology advance in petroleum industry also go hand in hand with the development of new material science. So one example is the nanotechnologies, and another example is the graphene. Is held as the thinking as the king of new material in the 21st century. So it is the new type of nanomaterial, being the slimmest, strongest, most conductive to both electricity and heat on the earth. Graphene can be widely applied in the petroleum industry in futures. Experts anticipate major breakthrough in the application of graphene in our industry around 2025, and a series of potential disrupt technology will emerge.
Mr. Chairman, can we really wrap up?
Yes, only one, last one.
Last one, ready, because we are completely running out of time. Thank you.
Okay. So the leadership is the shaper, my opinion, the shaper of the petroleum industry. The future of the petroleum industry is full of the challenge and hope. Future leaders in our industry should not only focus on the grasp of the development trend, but also dedicate on shaping the future of our industry. The development of our world is driven by the shaper across the different sectors. A representative figure, Stephen Jobs, a man with the intense desire to change the world and a strong determination and perseverance to fulfill the aspiration. He devoted his whole life to the dream and created the best products for the world. Thanks to such a great shapers, we are now entitled to the knowledge, convenience, and pleasure from the Apple products. Future leaders of the petroleum industry are expected to be the shaper. Just like Stephen, our future leader should be a great vision to build consensus and act as a powerful driving force behind our industry. Our future leader should stay firm and indomitable, fear no failure to pain, and strive for progress, growth, and maturity aims the pain. Our future leader should be passionate about their cause and remain determined of the commit to the excellent thing. The world petroleum industry has a long history of over 160 years. At this moment, we have every reason to believe the steer by our future leaders. This industry is due to make the further outstanding contribution to mankind by acting our part in reshaping the future world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jiping, for this comprehensive review of the ongoing transformation. I would like to invite Armand Tuyakov from KMG Kashagan to actually share with us a few words. If we can be efficient, it would be wonderful. Thank you very much.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, young professionals, as a matter of respect to the host country, I would like to propose my speech. I was asked if Kazakh, Russian, or English. As a matter of respect to Russian Federation, I would like to make my speech in Russian. Уважаемые коллеги, молодые профессионалы. Для меня большая честь, это немножко
Dear
волнительно.
colleagues, young professionals, I'm greatly privileged to speak in front of you. What are we speaking about when we refer to new generation of leaders? You will become CEOs, leaders in your industry, in your respective countries. Now, new reality, new economy pop came along, and technological spiral has been speeding up. We see new challenges, and the leaders should have this capacity of making right decisions in a huge flux of information. And today, we see the development of global net, online. In real time, the information can reach from one hemisphere to another in no time. State-of-the-art technologies are applied elsewhere, and of course in oil and gas sector, especially upstream. We're talking about intelligent wells, digital fields. It's not just only in upstream sector, but also have engineering and downstream, but in upstream it will always play a key role in working with big data as well. And Shell accomplished a lot along those lines. That program started by Shell in 2004. It's called Smart Fields. Such oil fields are available in Kazakhstan. In 2015, Kazakh implemented a project that was a field that first of companies, they implemented digital field program. That way they optimize the processes by way of identifying different projects in one. So that way we right-size the cost of production by 20%, which is very important, mindful of low oil prices nowadays. And the key factor is managing smart fields, which could in real time adjust something. Cambridge Association of Energy Studies is saying that it's possible to increase EOR on the fields by 25 billion barrels. Alongside with the development of new technologies, competition has been rising. As to labor force, in the US over the recent decade, the demand for labor force in conventional sectors due to the application of new technologies dropped by 40%. In traditional sectors such as heavy engineering and metal sector, mining, its share in value added since 20th century until now dropped down. It's just the global trend, not just American one. The share of knowledge has been stepping up. And actually, when we think back to the crisis of 2014 and 15, when from $115 to $14 oil prices slumped, but actually the cost of production adds volatilities to the market. We should use new technologies, but we should get adjusted to new challenges. There is a demand for new type of labor force, those who can participate in R&D, to work in design bureau, which does require their presence in the place whereby the upstream is taking place. For commodities countries like OPEC countries, Kazakhstan and Russia, which produces the reserves or stockpile, it's necessary to shift paradigm. We should diversify our economy and shift to deep processing and deep downstream. After global crisis of 2008, Kazakhstan taken on board a number of programs, the program of accelerated innovative industrial development, the measures to support diversification, measures to support processing industry, so that technological components will grow in economy. Apart from that, Kazakhstan is the first state of Central Asia which adopted legal acts to support green economy. It's environmental code, the law on support of the renewables, and also a number of other laws. And very important is this concept of green economy. Also, there was international exhibition 2017 conducted in Nur Sultan town. Kazakhstan is going to become a leader along those lines. We have got the goal by 2030 to reduce emissions by 25%. It is also necessary to take on board a number of measures because the industrial sector nowadays consumes almost 63% of Kazakhstan energy, and measures should be taken to develop alternative energy, RAS, and mostly solar energy and windmills. On the whole, many huge multinationals in oil sector are redefining their technologies, not just oil and gas companies, but core companies, energy companies which depend not just on oil. They contemplate renewables. ExxonMobil invested more than $8 billion into development of alternative sources of energy. Shell has been investing in the COM projects. We have got a special unit in charge of wind energy. And this all is indicative of the fact that oil companies should get adjusted and to be forward-thinking. They should figure out the way the landscape of energy sector would change in future. And of course, human capital plays a very important role in this. Currently, we see that those countries which succeeded, it's not just that they have got vast natural reserves, but they develop human capital in a good way. In Kazakhstan, even in challenging times, in the very beginning, President taken on board the program which is called The Future. This program has been around for 25 years. It envisages that most successful young specialists will be fully supported by the state if they want to continue education in the lead universities of US or UK or Europe. And there is Nazarbayev University, the Technological University of Gadam in Kazakhstan. That way, a new generation of young people will come up who will be thinking about the future technologies which will turn around the entire landscape. I am also a fellowship stipendee of this program. I studied in US and in UK. And actually, as to the education should be an ongoing process. Mindful of the recent Deloitte report and global human resource, they surveyed 10,000 respondents, and 80% of them responded that their company will have in-service training for their specialists. Apart from ongoing education, there is this definition of flexibility. There is agile concept. We should be agile to rapidly adjust to new changes and challenges. For all companies having their own corporate culture and state-of-the-art technologies, this is a highly risky sector to be agile, but we should strive being agile.
Particularly today, there are three measurements in which the companies operate. This is structure, processes, and people. In addition to analyze the hierarchy of the company, you should also see how the company operates cross-functionally, how the interfaces operate them, simplification of the business processes, and bring these business processes to each employee, how they work, and to see what people or what type are necessary for the company. So now we don't demand high people with high specialty. We focus on setting up international, cross-national teams that would create new product and adapt it quickly. But the main thing here we see a certain stability of dynamics. It is a complicated concept, but generally to attain it, the basis would be corporate culture. Corporate culture, which should promote innovations and promote a certain type of behavior of the employees of the company. For instance, I'm a representative given that as an honorary position to represent the interests of the national company in Kashagan project, the most complicated project in the world, to which $60 billion were invested, and the national company invested $10 billion. That consortium that was founded more than 25 years ago involves such companies as ExxonMobil, United Shell, GNBC, Impex, where 7 partners who manage a whole army of people, and today we have made about 4 global transformation, and we haven't yet completed it. We face a lot of challenges. We are looking for the new forms, and my message to the young specialists is that we always see difficulties. We have seen them many years ago, and they will be preserved in the future.
Move towards the conclusion to keep a bit of time for Denise.
My message is that you shouldn't take care of the difficulties, you should take care of the possibilities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's really a fascinating topic, apparently, and I'm glad to have here about what is ongoing in Kazakhstan. Denise, we would be glad to hear also your thoughts, and if you are not all in the rush, maybe keep 5-10 minutes for questions.
Can I get the first slide up? One of the advantages of going last is I get to summarize these great ideas that we heard. So I want to talk about one concept, sustainable development, because it aligns our values as a petroleum industry. It gives us a sense of purpose. And to all the young people who have stayed that I see out there, I want to empower you that this is our call to develop our product the best we can. So first, let's see my slides. I'm hoping these are, yes. So every company has a sustainable development webpage, a report. So why is this? Well, it's a deepening imprint that's on everything we do. And it's not just financial returns. It's our core function, how we are doing, how we are finding energy as a business. But right now, we're changing rapidly. It's policies, and technology is changing us. We've heard a lot about that today. And sustainability is key. It is what is going to allow us to continue to develop our product and survive as an industry. But most importantly, to all of you out there, it's what's attracting you. It's cause-driven purpose. So in a sense, Statoil figured this out. They changed their name to Equinor. Why? Because they wanted to attract the best and the brightest, to keep developing the product that we need to enrich our lives and to continue to develop civilization. So we talked a little bit about this on other slides, so I'm going to forward through it a bit. But I want to break down the fact of how our energy distribution is today. We have hydro energy. All energy is local, right? So if you have a source of hydraulic energy, great, about 3%. Nuclear, about 3%. Renewables, ramping up rapidly, but here we are, I don't know if I can laser, nope. Renewables in 2019, where that line is that you see going through renewables, we're still at about 4 to 6% worldwide, not in a country, but worldwide. It's still pretty low. Coal is coming down, we're still dependent, about 30% dependent on coal. Oil's coming down. Natural gas is coming up. So right now, fossil fuels are continuing to add to the energy mix. So how are we going to do that better, right? So this is the definition of sustainable development. And I love looking out all day today, seeing the sustainable development goals up there on the top shelf. Make sure you walk up there. Humanity has the ability to be sustainable. 2 things. We don't hear about the first one very much. Meet the needs of the present. That's what we do. That's what we do, right? Our generation. This is your generation, without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. This is our call. This is your purpose. And it's natural gas that's going to get us there while we're coming up with better ideas. Meet the needs of the present and the future. So I'm going to just briefly summarize here so we can get to questions. Exploration, what's our job? We're an economic industry. We're over 150 years old, and we started as an economic industry, producing a product that fueled the world. As over time, we've gotten better at development and enhanced recovery, maximizing recovery of reserves, right? That's an optimized industry. Where are we today? Where have we been? Where are we really bringing up to scale? Carbon capture, use, and storage. This is the concept that's helping us become a viable industry, taking responsibility for the product we produce that the world consumes. And this together all comes together, sustainable petroleum development. That's our call. That's our aligning our values, to quote Shell, giving us a sense of purpose and empowering the next generation. And I love this concept. It comes from South Africa, Ubuntu, because we are. We're the petroleum industry because we can, we have, right? And I'm looking at this next generation, right? Because we must. We must provide energy. So in summary, I'll just say, what is our call? Our job is to communicate the technical aspects of exploration, development, and carbon capture, use, and storage. We're one of the highest technology industries out there. Let's speak about this broadly. And here's my call to you. Communicate the positive economic, environmental, and social benefits of the petroleum industry. Add your voice, add your leadership to sustainable development. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think the call to actions was very clear to both the current industry leaders and also a call to actions for our generation. If you agree to stay 10 minutes more, I would be glad to see if in the room we have any question from the audience. We have one right in the middle here, and one on the front row, and one in the back. If you can make sure that your question is actually straight to the point and target one of our speakers, it would be perfect.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Sultan. I'm here with Oman YB. My question goes to Marina, the General Director. So looking back into your 19 years of journey and knowing what you know now, what's one piece of advice you will give yourself back then? And what's the one characteristic that you believe every leader should have, or every young professional should possess? And ending up is with what are you doing to ensure to continue grow and develop as a leader? Thank you.
Если говорить про меня, да, то мне уже как бы поздно развиваться и расти. Я уже, наверное, сворачиваю свою карьеру. Я хочу немножко отдохнуть, уйти на пенсию. Если говорить о лидерах, что бы я хотела, я уже это сказала. Самое главное, самое важное — уметь меняться. Это действительно сложно. Если вы пробовали это сделать фактически,
do it. In fact, you will understand me. If you have never tried it, please do. You have to change yourself, and it is very difficult, but you will have to change, because we don't know what will happen tomorrow, and you have to be prepared for changes to meet the challenges, and you have to be ready right now. So please try to change some of your habits, for instance, which you don't like. That will be really difficult, but you need to practice at least for 20 days, and you'll have to practice each day. Why I'm saying this? Because I know that I really have changed myself. I have changed my approach. We were born in a different country, and in order to become our present-day personalities, we have to change a lot. The more so that I'm a lawyer by education, and so I had really great difficulties when I worked at the petroleum companies, and during the last 20 years, I think I have been changing and changing myself. Though before that, I have formed certain habits, and it was not so easy to do it. Thank you, Marina.
We have one on the back, and ladies first.
Hi, this is Priyanka here from India, and I had a question for Dennis Cox. So actually you spoke about sustainable development. So this is a very basic question which always came into my mind. The thing is, if you talk about sustainable development, it will be like using non-conventional sources, then using solar energy and everything. Then if we focus more on sustainable development, isn't it giving a threat to the oil industry? Like if you are using electric cars, then your oil industry will, I mean, suffer because no oil will be consumed. So it's a deep circle actually. Like you go for sustainable development, then the economy of the oil industry reduces.
Oh, thank you. So the question was, if we really move towards sustainable development, will the oil industry cease to exist?
Yes.
Well, there's more to petroleum than just energy, right?
Right,
We use
right.
it for all petrochemicals. Matter of fact, if your clothes stretch, there's petroleum in there.
Right.
The electric vehicles you speak of are made with plastic.
Plastic.
There's so much more that goes into it. So when we look at the trends, and many of us showed these trends, we're still 50%, way out to 2050, past 2050, dependent on oil and gas, on petroleum, I'll just say. So I would say this, because we are moving in that direction, sustainable development means every day better, every day cleaner. And we don't know yet the technologies that are coming into our industry, carbon capture, conversion, that really may start the circular carbon economy. So I would say stay tuned. This industry is ever evolving. We really have some of the best and brightest and most creative people, and I see a very bright future in petroleum. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Denise. A last question on the first row before we wrap up. And to wrap up, I will ask you one question, and I want one word. What would be the quality that you would seek for a leader in 2030? You have the time for the question to think about it. One quality in one word.
Thank you. So my question will be to Cedric. Thank you for your inspiring speech. And we see the change in the industry, as you all said. Do you think the companies will try to transfer from oil and gas industry companies, from petroleum companies, into more energy providing companies, like combining gas and maybe renewables and so on?
Yeah, so thank you for your question. Yeah, I think I've always thought of my company as an energy company, and building on what Denise said, I actually think energy is a broad word, and often energy and power get misconceived and misused in the debate, where renewables for power, for electricity is one thing, but energy is a much broader thing. I do believe that even if we believe it's 40, 50, or 60% that is still hydrocarbon-based supply of energy, that the world is changing and that the company needs to change along with that in order to thrive, not just for the next decades, but for the longer term. But my company started its operations in Russia 127 years ago. So that's the kind of horizon that our industry works in. And, and I think we look that same time in the future and realize that we will need to change to continue to supply ultimately what our customers want to buy and what society needs. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So to conclude this discussion, we have a lot of students and young professionals in this room. So I would like to get in one word again, one quality that you would seek within this audience if you had to hire a manager tomorrow or a leader tomorrow. And it's the question for each of you. So Azad, if you want to start.
Probably one task and one wish.
One quality.
As a task, this is an attempt to reduce energy consumption per capita. And that task becomes a catch-over, energy consumption, pure energy, and so on. As to the wish, for the youth in this audience, you have one competitive advantage to all of us who are sitting here. you will live till our age and will never live to your age. So you have to use this quality, you have to use these possibilities, you have to use new technologies, new approaches, new views, but you should never forget that you live on one planet, the Earth, and your main task is to preserve it as it is today, and each your next step, each next movement, each next idea implemented by you should lead to happiness and not to death. That is my wish.
That's a wish.
If possible.
Excellent. Marina?
It seems to me that a leader in 2030, I don't know, but probably that will be complete use of his intelligence and IQ and development of emotional intelligence.
Thank you.
So I will repeat something I said in my speech. I will cheat a little bit because it's two words, but they start with the same letter. I'll say curiosity and courage.
Thank you.
So my word is the concentration. Because the world is too many choices, too many temptations. If you want to do something in your whole life, you need to concentrate on your vision, your target, your idea. Then you will success. Thank you.
Я, наверное, процитирую слова Владимира Ильича Ленина. Учиться, учиться и учиться.
You have to train,
и адаптировать это.
And to adapt it.
Two things I look for as a geologist: creative thinking and vision. Can you align the two? Take your thought and bring it forward. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for these words that will wrap up this session and give us a clear guidance on where we should work and on what we should work actually going forward. Thanks a lot for all the questions and your participation. And it's time for us to conclude. Have an amazing WPC Future Leaders Forum, and I look forward to our conversation going forward. Have a nice day. Thank you.